Morning to all of you. Soundarya College of Law invites you to the webinar on Law on Financial Crunch in Aviation Industry. I'm sure by now we are running a lot of webinars. You're much aware of all the instructions. So without delaying further, let me quickly introduce you to the chief guest speaker. Ms. Prema Venkatraman. Ma'am graduated from MS Ramaya College of Hotel Management with a first class in the year 2002. Ma'am started off with Fortune Landmark as a front office assistant, and because of her high potential, she was even nominated as a trainer. In 2003, Ma'am joined the Jet Airways Limited as a ground crew. In 2005, Ma'am joined Saga Plaza and was promoted as a sales and marketing executive. In 2007, Ma'am was an integral part of AHA, Air Hostess Academy, and extensively trained students for the hospitality industry. Ma'am has also worked with Oakwood Residence in Pune and Oakwood Prestige, Bangalore. Ma'am was also associated with Corinthian Bon Boutique Hotel in Pune, Stylebox in Bangalore, Goldfinch Hotels, Aptec Education Mall as a senior trainer aviation, IELTS, and is currently working with our sister concern, Soundarya Institute of Management and Science, as a trainer for BBA aviation students. Having said all this, over to you, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Good morning, everyone. And thank you, Claudia ma'am, for a lovely introduction. And I would like to take this opportunity also to thank Soundarya Law College to give this opportunity wherein I can speak about the financial crunches that is happening right now everywhere due to the COVID pandemic, which we all are aware of. And also what are the certain rules and laws that has been done by the government to revive a certain industry. So today we'll be emphasizing on the airline industry, that is the aviation industry, because that is one of the industries which has been affected and had a lot of impact on the because of the COVID-19. Now during the session, anyone has any questions, you could please type it on the chat box, and we can go ahead and have a lovely interactive session across over here. I would be presenting basically a small presentation. So I would like to share that screen right now with you. I hope all of you all are able to see the screen across, and like I said, any questions, please do type it on the chat box, and I will respond to it to the best. So here we, like I said, we will be discussing with regards to the why there are certain industries basically they fail. What is the reason behind it? Now every industry basically has its ups. At a similar manner, a lot of industries have its downs across over here. And what are the laws that are basically come across so that we can revive these industries across and better our economic and our revenue of our economic conditions also of the country. So we will be looking at the failure of a few giant industries. The first one we will be talking about is Yahoo. We know that Yahoo basically was one of the internet era during 1990s itself and 1994, which basically at the moment after the approval and after basically the commencement of Google and Gmail across, it actually is nowhere right now. The reason why it basically is failed is during those days, the Yahoo refused to buy Google at least for just a 1 million. It also failed basically by way of Facebook, and it also had repeated instances of bad leadership. Now, when a company basically goes on to the extreme height, there's always basically every people want to go in terms of basically is going higher and higher, where they also land up in a lot of greed, which they want to basically is just earn more and more. And also it comes into bad leadership. Leadership is one thing which everybody has to be basically is careful, and they basically have to lead their company. An example I can give you is basically is Ratan Tata. During 2611 incidents across, the way he basically took across the entire incidents and the employees, that is what is the great example of a leader at that particular point of time. During that incidents across, generally people would like to save themselves, save their lives. But not a single staff who basically left the hotel. They were the last people to leave the hotel, making sure that every single person, every single guest in the hotel were evacuated completely in a safe manner. Yes, there were certain people who lost their lives, but that is what you basically say about a leadership where an employee basically is ready to do anything and everything for the management across over there. The second example over here is we can go ahead and look at IBM. Now, IBM basically all of us know that it is basically a hardware company across over there. And any person who required a desktop, required any kind of a, what is his computer or any kind of a mainframe to work for a Fortune 500 company use, the first thing basically they used to, or the first company they used to approach is basically the IBM over there. But what had happened? In 2005, IBM sold off its PC line to Lenovo. It was greedy and wanted everything. Like I had mentioned earlier across, once basically a company or a person goes higher and higher, there is basically always a fall that takes across. Since I am from the aviation background and since I belong to the hospitality industry, here I have taken basically something known as a case study of Jet Airways. So all of us know Jet Airways is one of the best airline industry which we had in the 1990s, and due to certain reasons, it went through a big loss. It had to basically close down its operations, and right now because of the new FDI policies across over here, it is coming back into India. First, let us go through the introduction of Jet Airways. We will see how it went up, what was basically the peak point, and what are the reasons basically for it to fall. And then we will discuss basically the laws that have been done by the Civil Aviation Ministry in consent with the union, that is the central government. And now we have Jet Airways, which is reviving back. This policy basically not only comes across only for the airline industry. These policies have been framed by the government for many other industries. It could be the construction industry, it could be the IT industry, it could be small scale industries, etc. So just a small introduction with regards to Jet Airways. The owner, Mr. Naresh Goyal, basically in 1974, he basically started his own company known as Jet Air. It was a private limited company. And as a day went by, he basically came out and grew 60 branch offices across over here. After 3 decades of the operations that started across, he took over basically, or Jet Airways became the monopoly by Air India and Indian Airlines. Every customer, every passenger wanted to basically travel only by Jet Airways. The reason being is the immense kind of a customer service, on-time performance, all these put together, they became basically the leaders in the aviation industry across. And after that, he set up the Jet Airways company in 1991. He started as a small person. He basically started off only with 4 aircrafts across on May 5th. If you look at basically the different timelines across, in 1992, 1994, 14 January 1995, 1992 to 1994, we basically had started something known as the open sky policies was announced by the civil aviation market. Now, open civil aviation policies or the open sky policies is nothing but where every country had the permission to fly across from one country to another, which is also known as basically the freedom of air, wherein every country basically had no limitations. They could start their, flight to different sectors, to different world and reach globally around across. Coming basically to the 1994 era, he basically, within 2 years of his commencement across over here Jet Airways carried across more than 1.5 million passengers across over there. Between 1992 and 1944, we basically had the birth of various other basically airlines, that is the private sectors, that is Modiluf, Damania, Air Sahara, East West Airlines. By 14 January, basically 1995, Jet Airways was granted basically a scheduled airline status across over there. 1996 to 1997, Jet Airways, the airlines broke across the record by carrying across 2.4 million passengers. That is within a very short period of time across over here. By April 2001 across, they started with only 4 aircrafts. But coming to 2001, they started basically operating with 30 aircrafts and 195 flights daily to 37 destinations in India. By 1997, 2000 across over there, they had 20% of the market share and also the second highest after state-owned airlines, Indian Airlines at that particular point of time. In March, basically 2004, the airline launched its first international flight from Chennai to Colombo. Let's talk about the peak. If you see this particular market share which I've shared across, during that particular point of time, Jet Airways basically had the entire market share, had a huge amount of market share in the entire market. Like I had said earlier, every passenger, every person wanted to fly only with the Jet Airways Airlines because of the customer service and because of the kind of what you say is empathy and sympathy we show towards the passengers when they are traveling across. So comparatively to all the airlines that were present at that particular point of time, Jet Airways basically had the highest market share in Indian market. The revenue also was at the highest. If you see, they had around 20,000 crores rupees at a very short period of time. So here we have basically a short brief with regards to the peak. Like I had said basically earlier, what goes up, it has to come down at one particular point of time. So Jet Airways also went up, it was time for it to come down. So we'll see exactly what happened basically with the company. So here if you look at basically Jet Airways, who was basically the highest and we were basically is the number one in the market, it now came down. It came down to basically is only 19.1%, wherein you had Indigo and all the airlines also sharing almost the equal amount of market share in the entire market of India. What happened basically across over here? We saw in 2008, 2010, the Jet Airways lays off 1,900 employees who were basically is later instituted because of the intervention for the Ministry of Civil Aviation. They started basically year by year, they started incurring a lot of losses across and they were not able to clear their debts. They were not able to basically fulfill basically the loans they had taken from various banks and various people across over here. Coming to basically is November 2011, 2013, 3 consecutive years, they made a huge amount of loss across over here. A lot of people at that particular point of said that the major mistake or the number one mistake what Jet Airways did at that particular point is going ahead and buying Air Sahara. Air Sahara was another airline company which was started basically by Subrata Roy. He basically, again, it was going on loss across over there. As and when it was going on loss, he wanted to basically have a buyer. Those days, what used to happen is, as per the Indian economy, you could not have any foreign investors coming in and investing money in Indian companies. So even if you had to revive a particular company, if you basically had to buy another person's company, it has to be basically only an Indian, and he has to belong only to India. You cannot have them coming in from different countries. So it was that the policy was not an open door policy at that particular point of time. So what he thought, let me go ahead and buy Air Sahara. Let me go ahead and basically make a part, increase and develop and increase my fleet of aircrafts, and I can earn more money. But it backfired. He was not able to maintain basically Air Sahara. He was not able to compete with all the other low aircrafts across over there, because of which what happened, he further went into further losses because of this particular one purchase across which happened, and he had to shut down his own across over here. In March 2016, 2017, they reported basically a profit of rupees 1094 crores after almost 10 years. After 10 years, they had basically a profit of 1094 crores across. But again, in 2018, they came into a merger with its subsidiary Jetline, which is nothing but basically is Air Sahara, which was later renamed basically as Jetlines across over here. Now, in March 2019, Naresh Goyal and Anita Goyal, that is his wife, they stepped on basically as the board of directors because they were not able to pay the lease rent for any kind of lease companies across over here. They were not able to pay the salaries. They were not able to fulfill the requirements of the employees. Everyone went on strike and the entire company was shut across over there. Like I said, it was basically a very costly purchase. It was a very costly gambling that had to take place between at that particular point of time. They actually purchased Air Sahara for 500 million in cash. They rebranded it basically as Jet Light, and they also basically ignored advice of professional associates. I don't know if all of you all basically has seen this new movie which has come out in terms of a Tamil movie across, which has got the major actor known as Surya. This particular movie is all about basically is how Jet Airways and about the birth of Air Deccan. With the birth of Air Deccan, what happened? We had basically is the birth of low-cost airlines. And the dream of this particular person and the owner of Air Deccan, Captain Gopinath, his only dream was basically is to make everyone fly. Even basically could be the poor, it could be anyone. Everyone should be able to fly and should have basically the opportunity to see the skies. So he came out something with regards to basically is Air Deccan. All of them tried a lot basically to make a lot of what you say is create a lot of issues, create a lot of problems so that Air Deccan does not happen. It did happen with a lot of hard work at that particular point of time, because you already had basically two giant people across over there. You had Kingfisher as well as basically is Jet Airways across, who were trying their level best to make sure that Air Deccan doesn't start. But because of hard work, because of his entire persistence, we had the birth of Air Deccan taking place. But after a few years, what happened? Air Deccan also had started incurring a lot of loss, which was again taken over by Kingfisher. And now we basically don't have Kingfisher also. That is also basically closed. Now, like I had earlier said, basically with regards to the budget airlines across, they underestimated the low-cost carrier. At that particular point of time, Jet Airways had basically conquered the entire market globally. If they had basically, they were the number one, they had a complete monopoly sessions. They completely underestimated low-cost carriers like Indigo, SpiceJet, and Go-Air. People what they want to reach their destination at the safest and basically in a safe manner. So they started basically flying at lower cost at a faster speed across over there. Obviously you had poor management skills, like for example you had Mr. Naresh Goyal's incompetence as a CEO. He was not basically the guy who was basically what you say is a leadership guy. He became successful. He was able to what you say is bring out basically the world's number one airlines that got onto his basically head, and it came down slowly, and all of them thought that he was incompetent as a CEO. He was not able to take any decisions. He was not able to come to any kind of conclusions. And also the worst part what happened across over here is acquiring Air Sahara at that particular point hit the nail on the head, where it did not work out for both of them. And as of now, we have no Jet Airways. Jet Airways was a complete shutdown. The other reasons why across over here, we'll go through it basically in a, what you say is a faster manner. You had a lot of crude oil prices, the petrol prices which were increasing. They were not able to basically match the prices. They had the debts basically in terms of the approach of paying the debts for the leasing of the aircrafts. They were not able to clear the bank loans. They were not able to pay the fuel prices, etc. So because of which what happens across over here is they were not able to pay their debts, and they had to come across with regards to the closure of the company. Now, after speaking about the closure of the company, now we come to the stage of revival. Revival is something very important. A lot of people who basically start a particular business across over there, we basically want to revive it. We want to bring it back because we want people to enjoy the best. We want basically the people to basically get back the best across. How did the revival happen? He approached basically the government. He said, I want to revive my company, but I'm not getting any kind of investors who can invest into my company because I have a huge amount of debt at that particular point of time. So what did basically the government do? At that particular point of time, we had basically is the Prime Minister, Mr. Narendra Modi, as Narendra Modi. So what did he do? He came out basically with the open policy sector. What happened at that particular point of time? They came out with something basically known as the FDI, that is the foreign direct policies. So when the FDI was opened up by the government, it gave a lot of leverage and a lot of liberalization, where we have foreign investments who can basically come and invest into Indian companies, but they have to be of Indian nationals. Even though they are basically settled in Dubai, they are settled in Singapore, it could be in any part of the world. As long as they are basically is Indian nationals, they are, they have all the rights and the authority to invest basically into the companies in India. This opened the doors. Talk started basically. We had Etihad Airlines first, who approached basically Jet Airways. They had a talks, they had scheduled meetings with regards to the investments across over there as per the FDI rules and policies across over here. Now, looking at the present FDI policy, that is basically a foreign direct investments, 100% of the FDI is permitted in scheduled transport services. That is basically its automatic rules or automatic rules, where you have 49% of basically the automatic route and 49% which is nothing but the government route beyond 49%. Now, however, what happened across over here is, even though you had 100% of your FDIs given, basically permission given to the NRIs across over here, the government did not want to lose the hold across on that particular investment. So what did they do? They said, we will equally distribute it. We will have 40, we will give you 50% and we will hold the remaining with us, so that we know what exactly the investments are all about. We also have a control over it, and wherever there is a problem and wherever there is an issue, we can take across over here. So when this FDI policy came across over here, they also went into as per the aircraft rules of 1937. Now, as per the aircraft rules of 1937, which was there, it clearly said, as I earlier mentioned, that this particular aircraft rules of 1937, only the Indian nationals who are basically belonging to India can invest. But they had little bit of amendments which had taken place. So now we have basically the FDI policy, and we have basically a lot of foreign investors coming in and investing into India across over here. Now, we also know basically that Air India is a company, is a government-run company, a government-run airlines, wherein we are having a lot of issues with regards to, they are also facing a lot of financial crunches. So taking into consideration basically the financial crunches of Air India, again, the FDI is basically helping them a lot. As of now, the present news which is going on across over here is, we have Tata group of companies which are trying to invest into Air India and trying to take it into their own banner across over there. And it becomes basically a private airlines across over here. Now, what would be basically the benefits of basically having across these kinds of FDI policies? Now, what happens across with these FDI policies across over here is, you basically do not have any kind of a liability. You do not have any kind of basically debts left across over you. You can have that concerned person. There's no kind of, what you say is, the new owner has a complete hand in operating the airlines across over there. It is a complete 100% investment across, with different kinds of with no law interference with the government across. I did say basically that the government has a 50% share on it, but they will not have a complete control over there. Its complete control will be given by the new investors or the new buyers across, as per whatever however they would like to go about with regards to the investments across over there. Now, like I mentioned across over here is, once you basically the FDI policy came in, there was a lot of money, a lot of investments that happened, which also helped in basically the economic growth of the country across over there. Now, not only basically it helped out with the revival of the airline industry, it also basically helped out with a lot of investments, and a lot of investments which attracted India in different kinds of industrial sectors, like defense. You have construction development, trading, insurance, pensions, other financial institutes. Then you had the broadcasting company, and then you also had the single brand retail trading across over here. Now, just to give you a few figures across over here, as and when basically the FDI came out, the economy doors opened up across over here, we had a lot of investments across which came from entire world, everywhere. So just to share a few figures across with you, a few figures across. Now, for example, in 2016 and 2017, there was an inflow cash of US dollars 60.22 across over there. Coming out basically to the last financial year, 2018 and 19, there was basically a cash and an FDI inflow of US dollars 62 million. So look at what is happening to the economy. The economy is literally growing across over here. We all know, we all understand that we are all been fighting across with the pandemic and the economy is basically down. Various industries are going across down. We really don't know what is going to happen. Are we going to do the revival? Yes, we are going to do the revival at every cost because of these new economic policies which are coming across by the present government. They are making it, they are opening the doors so much that we are going to revive our economy in every single manner across over here. Now, sorry, in the last 5.5 years, that is basically from April 2014 to 2019, there was an inflow which came up of $642 billion, which amounts to nearly 50% of the inflow which came in the last 19.5 years. A lot of people are basically trusting we Indians across to basically come and invest in our country because they are believe in the economy, believe in the people across over here. I am proud today to tell you across is if US is basically surviving, the economy is surviving, is because of the Indians across over there. We Indians are sitting across on the chairs of the US as software guys and working for them. We have basically is Indians who are becoming a part of the US government, who are becoming a part of the US Senate across over there. We have Mr. Pichori, who is basically the head of Google Alphabet as well as Google. So that is how the Indian economy and our country is growing across. I'm sorry, but I'm a little too passionate about my country. Can't help it across with that. Now, so with all this particular entire FDI policies and a whole lot of other economic, a revival happening across, yes, India continues basically preferred an attractive destination for global investment and global fund flow, which is coming across over here. Now, which can be achieved inter alia by further and simplifying the FDI policy regime. So the government is working, trying to make out a lot of changes that can take place in the various policy structures across over there. So what happens basically is we ourselves can also be on the growing level, not only from the economic point of view, but also from people across over there. So the comeback. We saw basically the beginning of the company, that is Jet Airways. Then we basically saw the peak level. We saw it fell. How did it want to revive itself? With the help of the new policies that were basically created by the government of India by opening up the doors. Now we basically see the comeback. Yes, it has come back. And why I have a smile is basically that's my company. I worked in that company. Whatever I am today basically is all because of that company across over there. And to basically see that on ground, it's a different feeling altogether. So because of that particular policy, the FDI doors opened across over here. What happened? We have basically the company known as Carlock Capitals in association with regards to basically is Carla Jalan, Mr. Murari Jalan. They came together and now they are the owners of Jet Airways across. Murari Jalan is based in US, is based in the UAE. He's a Dubai-based company across over there, wherein they came across, they went ahead, invested in Jet Airways, approval was given, they signed the treaties, they signed basically the entire, contract, and now they have become basically the proud owners of Jet Airways across over here. So, Jet Airways became the first local carrier to receive any kind of a foreign investment across over here after the government liberalized rules to permit overseas airlines to acquire 49% stake. So here, I would like to conclude by saying across over here is, like I started off, everything that goes up comes down. But even if it comes down across, there's always a point where you can revive. The government is doing a lot, so let us do it from our point of view also. So let us revive and be a helping hand with the government for reviving our economic structure, which will help us also in the future. This is a small presentation with regards to the entire, what you say is the fall and the rise of Jet Airways, and what was the laws that are governing any of the airline industries or any of the industries who would basically like to come back, and how they are going to help them in reviving themselves. So thank you very much. It is basically what he says, a small presentation. Anyone has any questions, anything to ask, please go ahead.
Students, do you want to interact with ma'am? You can do that. You can put in your questions in the chat box. Ma'am, we've so far received no queries, but would you like to throw some highlight on the career opportunities which the law students have in the aviation industry?
Okay. There is a separate certification course itself, which is known as the aviation law, which is basically there with affiliation to the Bangalore University. So
Okay.
they can basically take a degree with aviation law across. What happens basically in this particular certification is, this is completely going to be on the basis of the aircraft rules of certain 1937, 1934, certain conventions and treaties that took place. So these people have to go ahead with become lawyers, become consultants. They can also take part in basically is understanding when there is a kind of an accident that happens or any kind of an incident that takes place. They can go ahead and speak about with regards to the, from the operator's point of view or from the convict point of view. So they have a lot of these careers that happens across over here. Now, once you do an aviation law also, you can also become a part of the DGCA. A DGCA is nothing but the board which controls the aviation industry in India. There is a Director General of Civil Aviation. So again, like I said, they can be a part of this particular organization, the DGCA across over there. Go ahead and make a lot of these, what he says, contributions in terms of advising or consulting in terms of the legalities across with regards to the aviation industry. So they can go ahead and do that also.
Okay.
And
Students?
a lot of people are basically taking this as a career across right now in law.
Yeah. That's why I just asked you. So if it comes from the horse's mouth, it'll be best.
You
So
could do that
students,
basically.
questions? Any questions?
Anyone can ask any questions, no problem, don't worry about it.
Yeah, and ma'am is also in our campus. So if they have any questions, ma'am, I'll get in touch with you. I'll take your permission and I'll share your number with them. So I think there are no further questions. So I request Miss Monisha M, Assistant Professor, Soundarya College of Law, to render the vote of thanks.
Thank you, ma'am. The real gift of gratitude is that the more grateful you are, the more present you become. By Robert Holden. First and foremost, my heartfelt thanks to our management for permitting us to organize this webinar on law on financial crunch in aviation industry. I would like to thank our guest speaker for the day, Ms.Prema Venkatraman, Trainer Aviation, Soundarya Institute of Management and Science, for the interesting and highly informative presentation. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, Manish.
Next, my sincere thanks to our beloved principal, Dr. Jayashree RS, for extending her support always. Thank you, ma'am. I would like to thank the moderator of this session, Ms. Claudia Nadh, Assistant Professor, Soundarya College of Law, for making this webinar a great success. Thank you, ma'am. I would also like to thank Mr. Prasad, IT Department, for running this webinar smoothly. Thank you, sir. Last but not the least, I thank all the participants for their active participation in this webinar. Thank you, one and all. Have a great day. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. Students, the feedback link is shared. I request you to kindly fill it in. We will keep the link active for a while so that you can, fill in the feedback. Thank you so much for joining us. We will get in touch with you for the further events like this. Ma'am, thank you so much, ma'am. Prema, ma'am,
Thank you,
thank you so
sir.
much.
Thank you, Claudia, ma'am.
Ma'am, you can log off, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you.